Welcome to the deep dive. We're going to dig into those insightful nuggets from all the stuff you've given us. You've got some really interesting excerpts from this book. Help them grow or watch them go.
Yeah.
Seems like we're going to uncover some good stuff about career development.
Looks like it. And it's a really relevant topic these days, isn't it? With all the changes in the workplace, when we're talking pandemics, AI, the whole gig economy, it's a lot.
So where do we start? Well, this book jumps right into it, right?
Right.
It focuses on how important it is to have those good conversations. Not just those stiff once-a-year performance reviews, but those talks that are more like coaching.
Right. And the author suggests kind of a shift in how we do that. Shorter, more frequent check-ins rather than those big long marathon career planning sessions.
I like that. But it does seem like for those conversations to work, people need to feel comfortable being honest. I mean, it's hard to really talk about what you want for your career if you're worried about how your boss is going to react.
It's a good point. The book talks about how the leader needs to make sure it's a safe space. Show they care, show empathy, even be a little vulnerable themselves.
No, that's interesting. Vulnerable. They actually talk about vulnerability. They even say that being curious is a leadership skill.
I know, right? Who knew? They have some great advice like letting go of the control of the conversation. Don't try to fix everything right away.
I get it.
Yeah.
So what about this hindsight, foresight, insight thing they talk about? I thought that was a
Yeah.
good framework. So hindsight, that's where you look back at what you've done right to see what worked, what didn't, and what you're good at, or maybe not so good at.
Right. Foresight, well, that's when you look ahead. Like, how is the whole industry changing? What about the organization?
Right.
And how's all that going to affect, where your career goes?
So then insight, is that where you put it all together? That's when you see what's possible. I love that idea of interviewing someone about their past jobs like you were thinking of hiring them today.
Yeah, that was a good one. Gives you a fresh perspective.
Yeah.
And it might uncover things that you didn't realize you were good at.
Now, what about feedback? The book says it's important to get feedback not just from your manager, but from other people too.
Exactly. Get feedback from your peers, from customers, even people outside the organization. It helps you understand what your manager's saying, see the big picture.
Okay, so we've looked back, we've looked ahead. Now, this is where the book really challenges us to think differently. It says we need to move past the traditional career ladder.
Especially with everything changing so quickly, they talk about redefining what career success even means. Finding ways to grow without necessarily getting a promotion.
I love that metaphor they use, the climbing wall. There's so many ways to get where you want to go. You can go up, you can go down, you can even just stop and rest for a bit.
It's not just about climbing up. The book also says we need to pay attention to things like AI and how the job market is evolving.
One thing that really stuck with me was that we should focus on what we want to do, not just what we want to be. Titles can be limiting, but experiences, that's where the real growth is.
They have this cool tool called the In-Role Goal Generator. It helps you figure out specific things you can do to learn new skills right now in your current job.
So you've got all this insight now from looking back and looking ahead, but what's next? The book says there are 3 ways to take action: education, exposure, and experience.
Education is all about learning, right? Taking courses, workshops, or just reading up on things. And they even talk about using those AI tools for learning.
Exposure, that's all about connecting with people, like mentors and coaches.
And of course, experience is all about learning by doing. Stretch assignments, projects, even volunteering.
They also make a good point about reflecting on those experiences, right, to really get the most out of them.
Absolutely. They have some great questions to help you figure out what you've learned and how to use it going forward.
And we can't forget about people who work remotely. They have a whole chapter on that.
They talk about the risk of proximity bias, favoring the people you see in person more often.
And they give a lot of practical advice about making sure everyone, even those working remotely, has the same chances to grow and develop.
One thing that really struck me in the book is how they talk about career development. It's not something that's done TOU, it's something you do with your employee.
Right, like a partnership. They're in the driver's seat.
Exactly. The leader's role is more like a guide, a facilitator, someone who helps them think things through.
Instead of telling them what to do.
Right. And they emphasize that the leader has to let go of the control, let the employee lead the conversation.
That might be hard for some managers, letting go like that.
It's a different way of thinking. And that's why that psychological safety is so important. It takes trust.
And they also talk about how the whole idea of a career ladder, that's becoming outdated.
Yeah, in today's job market, it's just not realistic to think you're going to climb one ladder your whole career.
They use that metaphor of a climbing wall instead.
That's a good one, isn't it? It shows how you can move in any direction, up, down, sideways. You can even just stay put for a while and play your next move.
Exactly. It's not just about going up. And they say it's important to think about what you want to do, not just what you want to be.
Hmm.
It makes sense. You could get stuck chasing a title instead of focusing on what you actually enjoy doing.
Right. It's about the experiences. That's where you really grow. And they have that tool, the Enroll Goal Generator.
Oh, yeah. That helps you figure out things you can do right now to learn new skills without waiting for a promotion.
And sometimes a promotion isn't even the best thing. Sometimes it's better to go deeper into what you're already doing.
Now, with so many people working remotely these days, how does that affect career development?
Well, the book has a whole section on that. They talk about proximity bias, how managers might favor the people they see in the office more
It's
often.
like an unconscious bias.
Right. And they have tips on how to avoid that, how to make sure everyone, even those working remotely, has the same chances to grow.
So going back to those three actions they talked about, education, exposure, experience,
Hmm.
how can leaders help their people with education
Well, they can encourage them to go to conferences, take online courses, things like that.
and give them the time and resources to do it?
Exactly. That shows them that their growth is important to the organization.
And what about exposure?
Mentorship is a great way to give people exposure, connect them with someone more experienced who can guide them.
What else?
Maybe let them shadow someone in a different role or attend meetings that are outside their normal area.
So they get a broader view of the organization. And then there's experience. How can leaders give people more experience?
Stretch assignments are great for that. Give them a project that pushes them a little bit, helps them grow.
Makes them think outside the box.
Right. You could also put them on a team with people from different departments or give them a leadership role on a small project.
And the book also talks about reflection, taking the time to think about those experiences.
Yeah, it's not enough just to do O things. You have to think about what you've learned. Maybe even write it down.
So ask yourself, what were the key takeaways? What surprised me?
Right. And how can I use this in the future? That kind of thing.
They also say it's good to get feedback from different people, not just your manager.
Yeah, ask your peers, your customers, anyone who can give you a different perspective.
That way you can see the patterns, the things that come up over and over.
And when you ask for feedback, it's good to be specific. Ask things like, what am I doing well? What could I do better?
Or what advice do you have for my career? They have a lot of good advice in this book. I like that idea of micro-coaching.
Oh, that's about giving coaching in the moment, not just during a formal review.
So like giving feedback after a presentation or helping them during a brainstorming session.
Exactly. Makes coaching a natural part of the work.
Sounds like a good way to keep things moving forward. They talk about the whole organization having a culture of development.
Right. It's not just about saying it's important, it's about doing it.
So leaders need to show that they support their employees' development. Give them opportunities, give them feedback, recognize their achievements.
Create an environment where learning is celebrated.
I like that they make the point that career development is good for the organization too.
Definitely. When people are happy and growing, they're more productive, more creative.
They come up with new ideas, they're more engaged.
Right. It's a win-win.
But they also talk about the challenges, the things that can get in the way of career development.
Well, time is a big one. Leaders are busy. It's hard to find the time to have those conversations.
That's true. And sometimes employees are resistant,
Yeah, they might be afraid of what they'll find out, or maybe they're just not sure what they want.
or maybe they've had bad experiences in the past.
So it's important to be sensitive, to understand where they're coming from.
Create a safe space for them to talk.
Mm.
And remember, there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. Each person is different. They have different needs.
It's a journey, not a destination.
And it should be integrated into the everyday work, not just something you do once a year.
And remember to celebrate those accomplishments along the way.
Yes. Recognize their efforts. Encourage them to keep going.
Make them feel valued.
And it's not always about moving up. Sometimes it's about expanding your skills in your current role or moving sideways to get different experience.
It's about finding what you're passionate about, what you're good at.
And sometimes it's about creating your own path, not just following the traditional one.
So be proactive, network with people, learn new things.
Take control of your career.
The book has a lot of good tools and resources too.
Like templates for development plans, tips for having those career conversations, questions to help you reflect.
It's a really useful guide. What I really appreciate is how they focus on the human side of things,
It's not just about systems and processes, it's about relationships and growth.
especially in today's world. That's so important. So let's go over those 10 key takeaways again.
Okay, number one, career development is an ongoing conversation.
Number 2, short, frequent check-ins are better than long, infrequent ones.
Number three, psychological safety is essential.
Number 4, curiosity is a superpower.
Number five, reflect on your past to find your strengths.
Number 6, get feedback from multiple sources.
Number seven, redefine what success means to you.
Number 8, focus on what you want to do, not just what you want to be.
Number nine, take action. Education, exposure, and experience.
And number 10, make sure remote employees are included.
We've covered a lot of ground here.
Hopefully this has given you some ideas to take back with you.
Remember, career development is a journey and not a destination. Be patient, keep learning, keep growing.
Hmm. And now in our final segment, we're going to look at some of the more specific challenges and opportunities in today's world.
What do you have in mind?
I'm really interested in how technology is affecting career development.
It's changing everything so fast.
Like AI and automation, they're changing the skills that people need.
Right, so how do you keep up?
And I'm also curious about the gig economy and how that's changing the whole idea of a career.
Yeah, it's a whole new world out there.
Those are some big questions.
I'm looking forward to discussing them with you.
So we've talked about the basics, like having those good conversations, moving past the career ladder, and focusing on education, exposure, and experience.
Now it's time to dig a little deeper. Like you said, technology and the gig economy, those are big forces shaping the future of work.
Technology is changing everything so fast. I mean, AI, automation, it's kind of mind-blowing.
It is, and it's changing the skills people need to succeed.
So how do we keep up? How do we make sure we're learning the right things?
Well, we have to be proactive. We can't just rely on what we learned in school or in our last job.
It's like we have to become lifelong learners.
Exactly. We have to constantly be learning, upskilling, reskilling.
And the good news is there are so many resources available. Online courses, webinars, articles, you name it.
There are even AI platforms that can create a personalized learning plan for you based on your interests and goals.
So much opportunity. But it's not just about technical skills, is it?
No, it's not. Those human skills, those soft skills, they're becoming even more important.
Things like communication, collaboration, problem solving. Those are the things that machines can't do.
Exactly. Those are the skills that will set us apart in the future.
And this ties into the gig economy too. With more and more people freelancing and working independently, they need to be adaptable. They need to be entrepreneurial.
They have to be able to market themselves, manage their time and money, and always be looking for new opportunities.
It's a whole new way of thinking about careers. So how do we adapt? How do we help people who are working in this gig economy?
Well, we have to recognize that the old rules don't apply anymore. The career ladder is gone. Job security is different now.
It's more about having a variety of skills and experiences.
Right. And it's about building a strong network.
Your network is everything in the gig economy.
It's how you find work, get recommendations, and get support.
So how do we help people build those networks?
Organizations can help by hosting events for freelancers and independent contractors.
They can also provide access to online platforms where people can connect.
And they can offer training on things like personal branding and online networking.
It's all about recognizing that the gig economy is here to stay and providing the support people need to thrive. But ultimately, career development is up to the individual, isn't it?
It is. You have to take ownership of your own growth. Nobody else is going to do it for you.
So what can people do? What are some concrete steps they can take?
Well, we've talked about continuous learning. Make it a habit to stay up to date on industry trends. Keep learning new skills.
Go to events, connect with people on LinkedIn, build relationships,
Find a mentor or a coach who can offer guidance and support.
and take some time to think about what you really enjoy doing, what your passions are.
When you're doing work that you're passionate about, you're much more likely to be successful and fulfilled.
And don't forget to take care of yourself.
This is a marathon, not a sprint.
Take breaks, recharge, stay healthy.
One of the biggest lessons we've learned is that change is constant. The world of work is changing faster than ever.
The people who will succeed are the ones who can adapt, who are curious, who are willing to learn.
Don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone. Try new things.
You never know what you might discover. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have. We've talked about the power of conversations, the changing nature of career paths, the importance of feedback and reflection.
We've explored the impact of technology and the gig economy, and we've emphasized the need for continuous learning and adaptability.
It's a lot to take in, but hopefully you found it valuable.
We've distilled it down to 10 key takeaways.
Career development is an ongoing dialogue. Short, frequent check-ins are more effective. Psychological safety is crucial.
Curiosity is a superpower. Reflect on your experiences. Get feedback from multiple sources.
Redefine success on your own terms. Focus on the work you want to do,
Take action.
and make sure remote workers are included.
We hope this deep dive has given you some new insights and some practical tools to help you navigate your own career journey. Remember, it's a journey, not a destination. Be curious, be adaptable, and never stop learning.